Let's close our eyes and we can pray. Almighty God, thank you, my Lord, for this opportunity and this beautiful Sabbath that you created and gave us. Lord, please help us that we can discuss relationships. Lord, open up our minds and our understanding of your midnight cry message, that we can see, Lord, that you are correcting us, you're helping us, and you're guiding us in the right path. Please, Lord, let us not just use this as an intellectual exercise, but let it change our minds and our hearts and our ways so that we can live this message. I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. One thing we want to discuss today, sorry, I don't know if it's fine with you guys. I don't think my video is really that good because my lightning and everything is bad, so I'm going to just keep it off. We want to talk, and I'm going to talk a little bit, and then once Erika comes back, she will continue and talk with me. We want to look at roles and responsibilities within relationship and a partnership. Now, roles and responsibilities has got so many subdivisions that actually all of the other lists that we've put on there falls under roles and responsibilities. I want to start today with equality, and I want to define and talk about equality in the relationship. Remember what we've done last week. We look at inclusiveness. And one of the things, same as Erika said, I'm also struggling. We were so used to the terms man and woman and wife and husband that we are struggling to come to terms with how to address a relationship, how to look at pronouns, how do we look at these things inclusively. And the best that we come up with is a partner. The other thing is what we need to do is we need to look through the eyes of equality. We in South Africa are a place with a lot of abuse and a lot of problems. And once we look at the Midnight Cry message, we will see that a group of people has taken this message as just, I will say, intellectual or just what is the opposite of practical? This is what they're doing. It's a surface understanding. It's an exercise, but they don't make it part of their lives. And one place that we see this manifesting and coming out is in relationships. The more we work in South Africa, the more we see the problem is relationships. One thing I can tell you now, I'm sitting in front of Bell Park. Opposite me is a very popular place next to the Vaal River. Everybody comes here and they got their parties, their end-year functions and whatever. I can tell you one thing, that tonight is going to be a night of abuse. It's going to be a night of tears. And it's going to happen within relationships. It's going to happen within partnerships. It's going to be loved ones, and it's going to be partners that's going to abuse each other. And this is something that we see that is very common in South Africa, not just outside the movement. We see it also inside the movement. So when we look at relationships, I want to use the term of a puzzle. Now, when you want to build a puzzle, you got all these random pieces there on a table, and you start taking one by one piece, and you will find out that it fits together. And all these pieces are coming together to make one complete picture. It's one puzzle. If there's pieces missing, it's going to be incomplete. And if you're not careful and not put all the pieces together, it's going to be incomplete. And such is the same with a relationship. When we talked last week and we look at individuality, it was one of those puzzles. Because we will find out, and this is one of the discussions we want to talk, and you are all welcome to share this. We want to look at the problems and the equality and the inequality that happens even before we start a relationship or during a relationship. And sometimes it ends in marriages and permanent relationship and partnerships. And you bring in that inequality, and it's going to run through and it's going to create a lot of problems. Sometimes we think you can take two people, you put them together, and they're going to start a relationship, and you think you're going to sort out and you can manage those two individuals so it will work. And we will see and we will discuss today to see it's not that easy. It becomes, especially now when we got the information of the midnight cry message and we understand what equality is, it becomes a total new, I'll say, ball game. That how we look at relationships. When the midnight cry message come, we had to look at everything in our lives. It became personal. We had to reflect on where we come from, how did we think, how did we act, every little detail. But one thing that I realized, and this we can see over and over again, it manifests that people are not living the midnight cry message. They are not living what they are preaching and teaching. They're not living equality. And it manifests in relationships. All more and more you can see that. So I want to look at what is the definition of equality as a relationship or in a relationship. So this is what I want to do. Then we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to look at problematic things. Now, when I look at the definition for equality, there's so many things I can look at. But in context with what we've already discussed and already talked about, I think this is one thing I came up, and please, you can give your ideas and talk to me about it. So I look at the definition for equality within a relationship, and this is what I came up with. Equality in a relationship does not mean uniformity, but rather it means that you both give each other the freedom to be who you are while growing together. This is actually beautiful to say that you keep your individuality, but you're growing together. And immediately something came to mind, Amos 3 verse 3. And I think you all remember this. Can two walk together except be agreed? Can two people walk together if they are not in agreement? And that means no. So I want to talk about before we start the relationship, let's look at a few aspects. Okay. So first of all, I'm just going to take myself as an example. And please, I'm going to make it just very simple. Okay. I'm a heterosexual cis man. I have a natural attraction to women. So my question to you is, how many women do you think I find attractive, beautiful, and sexy, and I have got an attraction to them? And I would like somebody to give me an answer what they think.
May you please repeat your question?
Can you guys hear me well, Gracious?
Yes, we can hear you. But
So,
I was just asking if you can repeat your question.
so I'm repeating my question. I'm a cis heterosexual man. That means I've got a natural attraction to women, meaning the opposite sex of me. So my question is, how many women, Gracious, do you think I find attractive, sexy, and beautiful, and 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 got some sort of attraction to them? 1, 2, 10? What do you think?
Potentially many.
Hi, Doreen. Yes, many. But does it mean I have to react? It means no. My love, my loyalty lies with Erika. She's my partner. It doesn't mean that my feelings and my things for other women just disappear. It just means I don't act on them. It doesn't have an influence on me. Because when we look and we see what's happening outside this movement and also inside this movement, we will see when it comes to relationship, there's a big problem. There's really a big problem because it seems like people just go to opposite sex and they approach women and they just want to get into a relationship. It's the whole process is unnatural. The whole way that they're doing is as if they just react on an impulse. If I react on all the impulses and all the things in my life, it would be greatly a problem. So if we look at, first of all, equality within a relationship, the basis needs to be the same platform. So if I go to the basic thing, I need to look at and say, it's movement to movement relationships. That means once I look at anybody that I'm interested, it has to be from the movement. It means Levite to Levite, Nethinim to Nethinim. This is before you even start a relationship. You can't go from somebody in the movement looking at a Levite or somebody in the movement looking at a Nethinim. There will be already inequality in that whole situation. Somebody said it beautiful. If you take, let's say, a man in his 20s and he's got a sexual relationship with a minor, a girl of, let's say, 14 or 13, we know it's not just against the law, but there's reasons for that. Because even though her body is able, her mind is not yet developed enough to go into that relationship without damage. That's why it's against the law. That means the knowledge that he has and the experience is unequal to hers. It means it cannot work, it will not work, and it's even against the law. That means it's an unequal yoke and equality. So it's the same if we take that principle back to us. We've got all the knowledge that we need to have in this movement. You cannot go outside this movement and think you can start a relationship with somebody else there. I think Erika will explain more in detail about that if it's part of what she's going to say. But it starts off with inequality. And wherever that relationship is going, there will be inequality going all the way, and it will create tremendous problems. One of the things we always learn, and I think you guys will remember this, sorry for the word guys, all your people will remember this. If we look at partnerships, relationships, and marriage, we always had the triangle concept that we say one partner is on the one side, one partner is on the other side, and if you look at the triangle going to the top, you put God on the top and say, both are individuals, but you got the same goal. You got the same aspirations. You got the same place you're going. And if both is going in that same direction, you're actually moving closer and closer towards each other. Now, I just want to take the word God and I want to put /midnight cry. That means the full concept of equality, gender equality, all those things. That means before you start a relationship, before you're going into courtship, before you start anything, you have to make sure the platform that you are standing on and the direction that you go, both of you have the same goals, the same aspirations, and the same outcome. And I'm talking now more on a spiritual basis. Then you're going to move towards each other, towards that goal. The individualities will still remain, each one, but you will move towards the same thing. The minute that thing moves or that goal is not the same, it's going to create tension, it's going to create diversity, and it's going to, at the end of the day, cause a lot of problems. So when I look at equality, I'm going to read this again. It's quite a nice way of setting it. Equality in a relationship does not mean uniformity, but rather it means that you both give each other the freedom to be where you are, who you are, while growing together. And I think a lot of the time what happens is people starting a relationship and they started with an unequal yoke. They started with unequal a lot of things. And from the start, it will be a problem. So, Erika, if you are back, you can just continue and help me where we are now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Okay, as Kobus discuss in equality, I'm going to discuss inequality and how can you recognize it. I will lay out some scenarios that can happen in real life and how inequality will be in the relationship. Life is messy and not all scenarios will fit a couple. Some might be so lucky that their relationship will be brought on more equal footing if they work very hard at it and see the dangers and be alert. But it will be very hard work and a lot of self-denying. Now, I have a disclaimer. My own opinion by observing and counsel what the elders gave to us before. Well, through my eyes, show you what I see, what can bring in inequality. I hope it might lead to deeper discussions and more resolutions for inequality relationships. The first one I want to start with is a teacher-student relationship. We can see immediately when a person is at a school or university that is problematic, when a teacher and a school child or a student is involved with a teacher. But can you also realize it is problematic when you bring in a person into the message and teach them? You are then becoming the teacher and they depend on you for information. How many times did I see such relationships and how it brought down some of the people involved in such relationships? Some even was converted by the student to leave the movement. What is the most effective way to prevent this from happening? The first thing comes to mind is motive. What is the motivation of that person into the movement? And this I will bring in two scenarios. Do you want to bring them in and date them so that you can have someone in the movement? Then you already have failed equality. Do you want to bring that person in for the sake of truth, and both of you starting to get feelings for one another? That's the second scenario. So the first scenario is the motive is wrong. The second scenario, the motive was pure, but humanity interfered. Now, the first one is your attention was not pure, and there will become nothing of your relationship. If that person is really interested in the truth, then contact another person to take over that studies, and you disengage immediately. That's it. The second scenario can also be solved. You should put your feelings aside. You brought in the person with a pure heart. It's quite understandable if you are spending a lot of one-to-one time with someone and both of you are single, that might their feelings develop. So I don't take it away. It can happen. But then you have to be of sound mind and say, okay, I see danger here. We are not on an equal footing. Go to that person, tell them, listen, I don't feel I can be your teacher anymore. I'm getting involved with you and you with me. That is if you're sure that person is involved with you. And then said, I will get you another teacher. Are you serious about this message? If that person says yes, then get another teacher and give space, give them time. After the person is fully incorporated into the movement, and you talk to the person and they still have the feelings for you as from the start, then you can proceed to speak to the teacher of that person. And if that person agrees with you, that person is ready for a relationship with you, then immediately go to your leaders, your representatives, explain the situation and ask for immediate couple counseling for both of you. Is it clear for you guys, or do you agree with what I have in mind here? What do you think?
Can I give an opinion?
Yes.
I've seen it where people get emotionally attached to people that's outside the movement. And they think by bringing them in the movement, they're going to make them part of the movement and then continue with this relationship. And we've seen it failed. It does not work. It starts, like you say, with inequality, and it will continue with inequality. The motives are wrong.
Anybody else have to say something? The next one might surprise you. Another scenario of inequality relationship is if there's children from a previous relationship. You can say, Erika, how can you say something like that? How can there be inequality because of the children of a previous relationship? Let me tell you, it is totally so. And why should I say it brings inequality? When you both have children, then both have the same say into your children's style of parenting, but not so with stepchildren. let's just look at the law. What does the law say about who's responsible for the children? Is that parent? Even if the couple marries, who will be still lawful responsible for their child? The biological parent. Now you have to understand, the child knows a certain way of parenting. Another person that suddenly comes into that situation would be wrong to interfere. That's why I say there is not an equal footing here. Experts say that person that comes into that relationship with the parent should not be the disciplinarian. Despite that you might think the stepkids need, or what your natural style of parenting is it harsh, authoritarian, or is it a beautiful, soft way of disciplining them? Does not matter. It is not the step person's responsibility. It's not their role. It's the role of the parent themselves to be the disciplinarian. The parent should have open communication with partner about what they expect from them, and is it doable? Sensitivity is the key to success for not only to your partner, but also to the children that is involved. Slow down to a crawl. If you do it well, it can take up to 2 years or more for children to accept you fully. Now you would ask, what is the work of that person? The step parent is not an equal footing about how to raise the children, but the person can be of great value to the parent and the children in a supportive role. Positive reinforcement would be the way the step parent will help with discipline. And what do I mean by positive reinforcement? I have 3 big dogs. 2 of them now at this moment lie on my bed, the other one on the floor. How would I get those 2 off the bed? They do truly lie on the bed now. What I can do is I can just tell them to get off, and they will get off. They will listen to me. Or there's another way. And if I tell them get off, I'll go on with my things. Then there's the other way. I can ask them to come to me, not to get off, to come to me. In the moment they come to me, I reward them. I can reward with attention by playing with them, cuddle with them, and give them treats. That's positive reinforcement. Or I can just take something and hit them till they all come get off the bed. That is authoritarian. That is harsh behavior. And unluckily, that is how many children are being brought up. So you can see how it's not an equal footing, and it can bring great harm to the relationship if that step parent is not wise enough to handle the whole situation with care. I've went to look at a lot of places and the advice they give us. The one person is a psychiatrist, and he is married to a woman that has also have children of a previous marriage. He says that the moment she starts disciplining the children, he leaves the room. It is not his work to do. And he can come and say, you know what, maybe to the children later, because they already trust him now enough to come and talk to him about their discipline. Then he can, on a good way, explain to them, I understand how you feel, but I understand your mother too. Let me explain how I see it. And he can explain it to them in a more gentle way. And he can have a bigger influence on their lives that even the parent can have if he does it correctly. Kobus sort of touch on this one. Age gap can bring in inequality. Now, I'm not even talking about very young, like Kobus talk about 14 years and then the other person is older. I'm talking about, say, 20 and 40, for instance. It's a huge gap that can bring in inequality. A person that's 40 years have more life experience and wisdom. And it can lead to a teacher-student relationship. And the moment you know, I say that, you know, inequality is there. Also, the older partner may be more financially secure. And talking about finances, one of the issues that disrupt a seemingly healthy relationship is finances. Finances and relationships are intertwined. Even though many shy away from the topic, it is the most inequality thing that happens in most relationships. It's the most well-known thing that happens. It is highly impossible that you and your partner will really earn the same salary. One partner might feel that they will contribute more than the other, leading to money imbalance in a relationship or financial inequality in a relationship. If you aren't mature about it, it can lead to more significant disputes. Many spouses sometimes try to outsmart their partners by engaging in financial infidelity. Yeah. That means keeping secret bank accounts or hiding the money and lying about your financial capability to your partner. That can bring in huge problems. And me and Kobus, and I don't want to give solutions here because we're going to use this as a total own subject. So we will discuss this, how we can handle it. The next thing that can bring in inequality is previous relationships. Now, how's that possible? A person is vulnerable after a bad experience. Now, I can personally say I had such an experience. I worked with a man who is trying for a year to engage me in relationships. I hope it's okay, Kobus, can I mention it? Do you give me permission?
I think I know where you're going. It's fine.
It's about Mark.
Yes, you may continue.
Okay, thank you. Then Kobus was in the army and he was a little bit of a naughty boy and he didn't come home and I was so upset and yeah, a lot of things happened and I was very angry and I stopped the relationships between me and Kobus. But I was very, very upset because I truly love Kobus so much, as you can see today. And immediately Mark swept in and he said to me, you know what, I will be good for you. I will do this for you. I will do that for you. And he made so many promises and everything that Kobus was not willing to make to me. because he was not ready yet. I mean, he's an army guy. So I said yes. Before my parents, I told them, listen, Mark said that he wants to marry me, and I said yes. But I was in quite a state, I could not even realize what was truly happening. And that weekend, he came to my flat, Mark, and you want to have a closer relationship, if you understand what I mean. And I told him, no, I do not this thing before marriage. And he was upset to me. And then I began to realize, I have no interest to be close to him. And it's a sort of, I waked up. I mean, I was 20 years old. I was still young. And I just woke up and says, what are you doing, Erika? Are you mad? You do not care for this man. He's a friend of yours. That's how it can happen. It's just like, it's like a predator zooming into a prey when you're weak. And I had to stop this whole thing and said, that was not a good thing for you to do. So it's automatically, will the relationship then be unequal? Because one person will be more involved than the other. And also you get traumatic experiences in relationship, like in abusive relationships. And they come out maybe in a household where the parents were abusive. The background makes a big difference how the relationship is. You have to see that a person that had more a stable relationship might help the other person. But how does he help him? He teaches them. Can you again see the imbalance there? If they are clever about it and get some extra help, yes, that relationship will be a blessing for that person that's been hurt so badly. But if not, it will be a relationship of inequality all the way. If you should truly care for a person, put your own feelings aside. If you know they're getting out of a relationship, they're on the rebound, they are sensitive, they are vulnerable. Don't coerce them in a relationship. Help them to get help. Do you not help them. That is inappropriate because you have feelings for that person. Your motives are not pure. Help them to help themselves by telling them where to go to get help. If the person then is more stable, then you can slowly go forward. But make sure you have discussed it with someone that has knowledge of that situation to hear it if it's appropriate to do so. Is everything understandable? Does anybody want to say something about this? Okay. Gender roles in a relationship. How is gender roles decided in culture? If you can remember the cultural iceberg, you will know gender roles are decided by culture. It's the underlying thing of the iceberg. You cannot see it, but it's there. Then we might say, you know what? Gender roles have no place in a modern relationship, especially where equality rules. It has no place where feminists are. Both must fulfill their part of the relationship that has been predetermined by both of you. Now we know there's marriages that is already, like me and Kobus, long-standing. you can come together again and sit down and say, okay, how are we going to do it now? How are we going to how are we going to determine the roles now? And the other person in the relationship hopefully will be comfortable enough to come straight forward and say, oh, you know what? I would love if I can say, get a job, earn my own money, do something special. Not all people can have the roles that society puts out for them. And they don't need to. Gender roles is culture roles, and culture was set up by humans. It's not written in stone, like some think. Because we know now that Protestantism is not our problem. Culture is our problem. That's the big iceberg. And if we don't meet it head on, then we will have a problem. So we should say, let's throw out culture in our marriage or our relationship. And if it's a couple before marriage, if a woman says, I don't want this, or a man says, I don't want this, or a non-binary person says, I don't want this, do not think you will change their minds. That is the wrong attitude. Then you don't love the person for what that person is. Don't think you will be able to change their minds, for you will not be able to do that. There is no way on earth that you will be able to change them. So if a woman says to you, I don't want children, believe her. If a man tells you, listen, I want to be a stay-at-home dad, and I want to look after the children and do the dishes, believe him. If a non-binary person says, I don't care, believe him or her, or they, excuse me, it's non-binary, it's they. You see how I make mistakes. Then the other influence of inequality can be a disability or a personality. And that's how you can define roles differently. I'm watching a YouTube, I'm following a YouTube, Squirmy and Grubs. Hannah is a most attractive woman, and she's quite large for a woman. She's 6 foot. She's a very good swimmer. She did that professionally. And her husband is the opposite. Shane have clothes of a 10-year-old. He's got muscular dystrophy. Yeah, that's very hard for me to say, but yeah, that's it. He doesn't have muscle tone. He's in a wheelchair. He hardly can move his hands. You would not believe it. People believe their relationship it's not real, because Hannah is a beautiful woman. How can a man that is so disabled have a beautiful woman? The patriarchal in them cannot accept that. They discussed how men come and say, how can I, a man, there's nothing wrong with me, not be able to have a woman like Hannah, but you can. And Hannah and Shane's response to us is because of your question. You don't see them as equals. That's why you think it's a conquest and not a partnership. Now you say, now what type of work can the people do? Now let me discuss how it works with these no gender roles. One person might not be able to do physical labor in the garden, but that person can make a bed. Or a person might not be able to cook or clean the dishes, for they sit in a wheelchair, and most of the time the wheelchair is too low for them to be able to cook. But they can pay the bills online and they can mop the floor. Each one has a function, and it's for the couple to predetermine what that function will be, and it's not gender-based. Now, does it mean if we predetermined that, you know what, Kobus will do the dishes, I will do the cooking, that it till the end of time it will be like that? No. It doesn't mean that if you are predetermined that you will cook and that your partner never will cook for you. That is not a partnership. That is not how it works. It's you take the responsibility of that and everything that goes about it. It is your responsibility, but it's not necessarily to do your function. I want to give a good example here. Rasedi, she is our representative from Mpumalanga and the national board. She is also the head of the editorial team. She is taken that she will be the responsible person for the newsletter that will come out. Does it mean she should do everything on the newsletter? No, of course not. That is that she takes responsibility of it, but she does not do all the work. So it can be on a weekend. Oh, you might be so tired of cooking. Let me cook for you today. No, it is not written in stone. Or as I said before, it is written in fluidity. It's written in gel. It's written in jelly. Everything is more jelly-like. Okay. Kindness is the key role to the household. The reason why we will say there must be roles to play is not because of gender, except, like, for instance, giving birth. Only certain people can give birth, and it's not only women that can give birth. So, by the way, think about that one. That will put your mind in a tailspin till next week when you'll do the study. Sometimes the reason rules are decided because of who you are and not what you are. Thank you. Kobus, can you go for the rest of the way?
Is there anyone with any questions or any additions of what Erika said? Because there's so many things we can talk about. My observation, am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, Shami. I can hear you, but you're breaking away. Okay, maybe you just said I'm sorry, I can't hear. You're breaking away totally. I don't know if somebody else can hear, maybe.
Yeah, even on my side, he's breaking.
I'm going to go on. If he's get better reception, he can interrupt me and we can listen to the question if it was a question. I can't really hear. One of my observations that I want to say is, even in this movement, we've got a lot of cases of abuse, we've got a lot of problems with relationships. And the counsel is that people that's going into a relationship must get counseling. And I've found, and the people can also talk with me, the minute you do counseling, you start realizing more about your partner. You start talking to each other in a different way. Your eyes will be open. You discuss issues like equality. You discuss issues like gender roles. You discuss all these issues. And we found that sometimes people come to a point where they realize this is not going to work. And they didn't knew before that it will come to this point. On the other hand, we also get people that the more they know about each other, the more they want to know about each other. So it is so important. The counseling is not for us to tell you something, it's for you to find out about your partner and see where do you stand in equality? Where do you stand in these issues? And there's a lot of things sometimes we do not discuss with each other. Because if you look at culture, we understand that within the movement, and that's why it's so important to stay within the movement, that we also understand issues. One of my concerns is we're talking on Friday nights. Doreen has done it before, other people has done it. We're trying to talk to the people and talk to the youth. But even tonight, if I look, we're 7 people, including me and Erika. Where's the people that really needs this information? Where's the people that are struggling? Where's the people that we can talk to and share with? And because some of these issues are really, really important to talk. One of the reasons why we talk is, and one of the reasons me and Erika and Doreen, everybody that presents it, we feel awkward because it feels sometimes we talk to ourselves. We need participation, but we see this every time we talk to people that are in problems. One of the questions we ask them is, why don't you tune into these discussions and on the Sabbath discussions and learn and experience more about these subjects, about the midnight cry? Because the people, I don't know if it's a theoretical, they think this is only theoretical information because they don't live this equality. People are abusing each other. They are going into relationships and they know what is right and wrong. They just don't care. They go there. It's as if the emotions and the lust and those desires just take hold of them and they do things. And most of the time they don't have excuses, or the excuses are so lame. It's unbelievable. So I know I'm talking to we just a few people here. But the real issue is that when you look at these relationships and you look at where we are in time, it's a serious matter. We need to take it seriously, because if we don't do it, it's ending up in abuse, it's ending up in tears, it's ending up in and even suicide and people dying and getting killed. This is real issues. This is serious, serious thing. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to just open the door and talk to people and invite people to share their feelings, their emotions. There's a lot of things I didn't know. But the more we get in contact with this, the more my eyes getting open, the more I look at myself, the more I can change myself. And this is the whole idea. It's about changing and living the Midnight Cry message, because it's a blessing. Again, I'm sitting here in front of Bale, and across the road, the guys sitting there at the river and they're partying. If you just look at them and you look at culture, you see all the women carrying the babies, all the men just playing soccer and drinking. I know it's worldly people, but if you look at, if it's 2 donkeys and you start packing on their backs, you will see always the one is loaded more than the other one. You see their relationships, it's not balanced in any way. Culture dictates certain things. And if we don't break it and we don't put it aside, we are getting victims to it. and it will not be a good relationship. It will not last, and it will just end up in tears. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to discuss, we're trying to look at culture. Erika's put a lot of information also on there and things that we've discussed, small things, but sometimes it becomes huge, huge problems in a relationship and it end up in disaster. Some of these things can be managed, and if they can get good counsel and people involved that can help them and guide them and they can slowly work through that, yes. But one of the things is we need to take, each person of us needs to take responsibility of this message. And we must live it. And we must help our fellow brethren with it. Because what we sometimes do is we see that they're slipping and we see that they're struggling and we keep quiet or we give them bad advice. Instead of opening it up, not to the whole world, not to the whole movement, but go to the national board, go to the leadership, go to the representatives. Because sometimes if you pick up something in the beginning, it's easier to deal with it and look at the situation and help them. So I wanted to talk about culture, but there's so many things and I need your help because culture it's different for different people in different environments and different groups. But it's got such a hold on us, on each one of us. It's difficult to break. And even if you decide to go on with relationships, also the family gets involved, they interfere. They got all their things that they push and their agendas that they put on us. And it's difficult. And it's very difficult to work through those things. I encourage everybody to talk to the rest of the people. Let's all get together on the Friday night. Let's discuss these issues. Put it on the table because you got something to contribute that only you can contribute, that not me and Erika or anybody else can do. You got experience that you can share. I don't talk about detail and things, but it's to help each and every one. That at the end of the day, we make it better for each other. And this is my message, and this is the reason I think that we're doing this. We want to help people. But we need to get the numbers, and we need to get the youth, we need to get the people together that we can share it. Otherwise, we're going to be just a small group going out and do that. I don't know if there's any comments or anything about this. Please.
On my side, it was clear, Kobus and Erika. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got nothing more. I don't know if Erika got something. Then we can just end. I don't know if you got something, Erika.
Yeah, I'm done.
If there's nothing else, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pray if it's fine with everybody. Holy God, thank you, my Lord, for this day, this opportunity. Lord, you have opened up so much information for us. Help us to not just understand it, but to live it. Let it make a change in each one of us. And as it changes us, let us help change other people. Let it be a chain reaction. Let our focus be on your message, equality, in the broader sense. And let us all work towards one goal. Be with us in this night. I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Erika and Kobus, for that beautiful message, and may God bless you. And thank you all.